Her web connects them all. Outside of Andrew Garfield, we're not connecting to him anymore. After the initial film was set to connect deeply to the Amazing Spider-Man universe and focus on Fetus Parker that would have been Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man, Sony realized it didn't make sense because they screwed up the timeline, so they removed all traces and mentions of the Amazing Spider-Man. Well, ain't that the most Sony thing you've ever heard? So this report comes at us from Jeff Snyder, who was talking about what he's heard about Madam Web and some of the problems and, things that happen behind the scenes for the film. Essentially, what it boils down to is what was reported before, and it now seems more official than ever. Sony didn't really know what they were doing initially with this film and how they were going to bounce it around multiple Spider-Man and what they were planning to do with the baby Peter Parker. Well, as it turns out, majority of Madam Web was going to be set in the 90s, and it was going to tie into The Amazing Spider-Man. But they realized that things weren't lining up with the production, what they were going for, and essentially, from what I've seen with other reports adding on top of this, they screwed up while working on the film. Essentially, the script writers really messed it up. So when they shot the film, the intent was the big reveal, hey, it's Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man in this. This is all connecting to it. We're going to go down this road that you guys have been asking for. But as it turns out, the writers of Madam Web, the same ones that wrote Morbius, which isn't surprising at this point, screwed up so bad that upon examining the film, they realized, hold up, this film has to take place in the 90s. But we accidentally set it in the mid-2000s, which doesn't line up with TASM. So we got to delete all this. So then it went back, did reshoots, and removed all mentions of the Amazing Spider-Man and tying it to the TASM continuity. Is this surprising? Yes and no. It's surprising that they were actually going to do what a lot of fans were asking for, and this was going to be it. It's not surprising that Sony screwed up another spunk film and trying to shoehorn a Spider-Man in there because they didn't know what they were doing. So now you got this weird thing that's going to do something, presumably, but we're hearing it could still connect to TASM in some way, but also might connect to Raimi's and or Holland's and or a new one. So we don't really know where it leaves us. It just sounds like it's a mess. But we're going to know soon enough. The film is out in less than a month, and yes, I'm still very excited to see it. I don't know why. I like the suits. I think that's the only thing selling me on it. And when I say the suits, I don't mean Ezekiel. I mean the other suits, the Spider-Woman. They look good. What are you doing, Sony? God, every time I talk about Spider-Man, I'm like a disappointed parent.